I retired. I built a house. You know, I'd go down and work at the church, building the church down in Lovell, and then I'd come home and working on my house at night. And I asked the guy that was building the church, responsible for it, and I said, what do you do if you don't meet these, have these meet right smooth? Oh, he says that's what they make 2-inch putty for. And so he says it isn't that important.
On the roof?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And so, but as I was growing up, you know, I was a 10th child of 12 kids.
Right.
So, boy, you had to, when it come meal time, you had to eat, or they wouldn't give it to you any other time, so you really had to eat. And it's pretty nice. I've had a good life. I've been around. I've been up to Canada. I've got a daughter up there, and I go up there every year for a month or help her in her garden, and then I go up. While we were there, we went up to Moose Jaw. They've got a river up there at Moose Jaw, and the water goes one way in the spring when the ice and snow and stuff is melted. Then later on, after the snow melts, then it goes back the other way. So it has to be pretty level.
Yeah.
There for all of that time. And the railroad ends up there at Moose Jaw, and that Al Capone, the old gambler and crooked everybody in the United States, he'd get, instead of arresting him, they couldn't pin anything on him. And the railroad went up to Moose Jaw. That was as far as the railroad. And so he had a place up there, and when he'd get the material would get too hot for him down in the States, he'd always go up there.
You just ride the train to the end of the line and hide out in Moose Jaw. Huh?
In Moose Jaw. And it's a pretty good deal. You know, Rhonda took me up there, and the gal that started out, she had on not a uniform, it was alcohol. She was a waitress.
Oh, okay. She was dressed as a waitress back in those days?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And they, now, and so we went in and sat down there a little bit, and then she come in and started talking, and then she says, why don't you follow me and let's go? So we did. Rhonda and I followed, with just the two of us, and we followed around. He'd phone would ring, he'd answer the phone, or just you know, he could, and he was in the hallway all the time, nice looking hallway, and she'd hit her elbow against the wall as she was walking, and there the wall would disappear, and we'd go out into a little place, and the wall would go back, and she'd take us back in and show us. And she said, "You try to go through that wall. You saw us walk through it. Now you go through it." And we couldn't figure out where it was at.
She had to know right where to put her elbow to open the door?
Uh-huh. And that was quite interesting to me. And then in a little while, she introduced us to another guy. And that guy, you couldn't trap him anywhere because he hit his elbow or something, and a door would open up, and then you'd go back through and you wouldn't see any door there. And he said you can hit any place. He hit another place, the back of his hand, and it emptied up or opened up, and we went through that way, and there were so many things like that that it was interesting. And we'd go down an alley, and there'd be a few steps, maybe 8 or 10 steps, and they'd show an office. There'd be their office, and the guy'd pick up his phone, and the guy come in, and it just showed how he could do anything he wanted up there. This Al Capone, they couldn't catch him. They couldn't do anything that he could do. Just, and it was sure. I spent probably an hour in there, and I enjoyed it because trying to figure out where he was going next, I couldn't tell. And then when we ended up, we were over across the road. We had to go back over the road, and the road was in a canyon, and we had to go back down and go back on the other side to end up where we started.
So all of these secret chambers and everything was underneath the road?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Or along the road. It was fabulous. And that's at Moose Jaw is where that was, and they've got the Moose Jaw is a Indian name for a river that runs both ways. Now that's pretty level in the springtime when there's snow and ice to melt. The river goes one way, and then in the fall when there's not much water around, the river going back, and you can throw something out there and see it going. So you know it's going. And that's what, it's Indian for river at Moose Jaw, is Indian for a river that runs both ways.
You ever seen a place that has a river like that anywhere else?
No.
Yeah.
No, I never have. But it's interesting. I spent quite a while there, and then as we was coming home, I wanted to take a picture because of the railroad. It was hauling stuff, and one motor, or one engine on the thing that has 75 cars on it. Well, you know, coming from here in Wyoming, why, you'd have 4 or 5 engines pulling what that one was doing. It's just that level. And I went with Chuck once, and we were loading some gravel on so he could spread it. Chuck has, he's responsible for 18 square miles of the, well, I call it county in the States, but up there it's RMs. And they, when he was loading that up, I said, "Where's the highest point on your RM?" He says, "You're standing on it." That's just how level that ground is up there.
Depends on where you leave your gravel pile, huh? That's your highest spot.
Well, I watched them this year when I was up there. I watched them. There was had a place where they were digging gravel up. They had one of these machines that they pick it up and swing it up and take it up about 10 feet. Well, they had one put it up there, and the next one up there would take it up, and they had 4 of them to get it out of the bottom down there.
Boy, pretty deep.
Well, yeah, and it's quite a wide, maybe a couple of 100 yards that they was getting this. And it was, they got crazy up there. I'd go up with Chuck to they had to keep the pumps going and to keep the water so they could work or so they could get the gravel. And they piled them up out there, and then they'd bring in a crusher so that they'd make the gravel the size they wanted so they could put it out for on the road. They get these belly dump trucks, and they get them up to 30 miles an hour and spread it just so, and they didn't have to do any machine work to spread it around. It would go out to the edges, it looked just like it. And that's why they did the road work. They had the machinery, but they didn't use it.
It was good enough once it came out of the dump, the belly dumper, huh?
Not coming out of that belly dump at 30 miles an hour.
Spread it out fine.
Spread it out just right. But the soil up there is, if when it rains, it's muddy. They don't irrigate anything like I was used to. They just don't do that. And there where Rhonda lived, there they've got a house in Yellowgrass. That's a little community of about 100 people, or maybe 150. And
those gloves saved your life?
I was there at Lovell, where I live. Why, we had a ditch, and we had a fence, electric fence on one side, and a ditch on the other side that was dry. And I was walking along there, and I must have stumbled or something, but when I fell in the ditch, hit my hand on the side of my head like that, between that and the ditch, and I laid there for 3 or 4 minutes. I said, "You dumb fool, you better get up and go down to Carl's, see what's wrong with you." And that's just one of them. If I hadn't had that great big glove on, I'd have probably ruined myself. But they took x-rays for 2 days trying to find the broken bones, and I didn't have any. And then the other time is, I was, there, the milkweed pods, they have a thing, and they have quite a few, all the way from 1 to 10 of the handfuls of stuff. And that's what I would do. And I was starting to do that, and I walked over into an area.
Grandma will get you bread.
What?
And
That's Grandma.
I stumbled. The weeds was high, and you couldn't see where I'd been. And I fell down in a hornet's nest. And if you don't think that hurts, I had on a hat similar to the one I got, which has a hole in the back. I could put my hand around there and pick up a whole handful of hornets, and I squeeze them like that. But I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't get my feet under me, and I'd start to roll. There had been a little hill, 3 feet by about as big as a room, and I had to go crawl over that. When I crawled over that finally, got out of there, why, I went in and my eyes were so swollen, I had to keep them shut when I was in the Yellow Jackets, or they'd have stung me in my eyes. But, and when I got there, I tried to find my phone, couldn't get anybody. Finally, I called 911. I could see enough to use the phone for that. And what I said, they said, where do you live? And I says, I'm living by myself. And I heard a guy in the background say, let's go, I know where he's at. He'd been out, fixed a golf ball court for me a couple of times, so he knew where to be. And boy, the ambulance was right there. It didn't take them long. I didn't know how they'd get me out of the house, but boy, they did. And they rushed me down to the hospital, and there was a young, the man was there, the only doctor that was there is in training, and he didn't know what to do, and he picked a dozen of the stingers out of my eyebrows. But boy, they had a doctor there. They got a doctor there, and I was sure glad. And they were afraid that because I had so many stings, that I'd go nuts or I'd die.
Sure.
But I didn't.
And you used your gloves to smash the hornets? Is that
Oh
what you-
yeah, I'd have to pull them off like that.
Boy.
And so that's why I have gloves. I just feel better if I've got a glove. There's nothing wrong with my hands, but
You wear them most of the time, and they've saved your life twice, huh? That's pretty good.
Well, I don't know when I'm going to need it.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed it the 2 times that they did. But it's interesting. I even wear them to church. Because I don't know when I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 92 years old and I stagger quite a bit now. And so I just going to wear my gloves and the heck with people.
You're not too concerned about fashion, it sounds, huh?
No. But it's sure, you know, the family, the old house, I got pictures of the old house, and we used to have well, when I was young, I could jump over a tree, and the tree now is about 2 feet in diameter. But, Garrett is taking over the place now, and they've raised beets there in the back of it. We lived on the river, and we used to put up ice. You kept ice in, when they get 1.5 feet thick, why you cut the ice in chunks about 1 foot square or 1 foot wide and about 2 feet long, and you use ice tongs to catch the water or catch the ice and pull it out of the pond. And I got a couple of those. I've got an ice saw that we used to use to saw the ice, and it's nice.
Now, did you take the ice, did you deliver the ice around town then?
No, we used it for our own use.
Used it for yourself? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a refrigerator in them days because they didn't have refrigerators. They had ice chests. They'd put a chunk of ice up in the top of it, and then they had the shelves down below, and that's the way you keep it cold.
And you remember cutting the ice yourself and
Oh yeah.
keeping it in the ice box?
Yeah. The river Worcester, in the spring of the year, the floods had come down. I've walked from home to the town 2.5 miles in the good old days. I walked to town several times by rolling up my pants legs and walking to town in water all the way down.
Wow.
You know, they didn't have oil roads in my days. They had gravel roads. And I can remember when they first oiled the road to town when I was younger, because that's how I learned to waltz. You know, waltz is a big step and a catch-up step, and it's a 3-step waltz. And I used to waltz all the way to town had that oiled road. And one time Wayne and I were walking along the road, and we got up there dancing in that road and walking, and anyhow, Wayne knocked me off in the road, and I says, "What's the matter?" Oh, and the car come by. If he hadn't saved my life there, and I'd have been dead. Just wouldn't have been.
Yeah, you were there in the road, and he pushed you out of the way of a car. Huh?
Yeah, he got me out of the road of the car. You know, we live by the river, and in my lifetime, I've seen 4 bridges built there across that river. The first one was wooden bridge, those old type wooden bridges, and they were building another bridge right next to it, and my brother had the contract of filling the abutments with gravel, and I would drive a 4-horse evener, and I was spreading that gravel around, and here come the sheriff and deputy sheriff, both of them, and they says, "We can't go across that bridge. There's a plank broke in there." I says, "Well, you go ahead. You ford the river right here. You can ford it, and you can go up that side and go on." And they said, "You're just stuck." And I said, "No, you won't. If you do, I'll pull you out." And so they did. I didn't have to pull them out, but I had to laugh. A couple of years after that, I had a Jersey cow, and I had my Swingboard brand that I used from my dad, and they come and said, "Take that cow off from that island, dead cow." And I said, "There's no dead cow." And when they took me over to that bridge, I looked down the creek, and there on an island was a dead cow with that brand just as plain as day. I'd had the cow die, and I'd hauled it or drug it up just back of the place and buried it in a sandbar, and which was easy to dig, but the river washed that sandbar out and that critter down there. So I had to
you had to try burying it again, huh?
had to bury it again, and at that one time, a guy come there to the house. A guy came there to the house, and he said, "We're camped down below the bridge, and during the night the water come up. I can't get out." I says, "Well, I'll hook up my team and go down and get you."
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I went down, pulled him over onto the solid ground where he could go. And that's just some of the things that I done when I was a kid.
Handy to be there on the river, huh?
Yeah, be there on the river.
And most of your brothers and sisters stayed there in Lovell too, right? When they grew up?
No. I'm the only one there, but Carvel, I bought a place. I wanted a place of my own, and so I asked the banker. I needed $3,000 to buy the land, I was gonna build a house myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy that owed me $1,000, and he says, I'll put you a basement wherever you want it. And when I was younger, we had what they call the Bowery, and that was up there. It's right where I live now. My house is right where the Bowery was. And so, but it's, there's some money changes. They've got an oil road up there. When I moved up there, we had about a couple of acres of, we went around the loop with the ditch, and the road was so bad they couldn't go by there. They used to kid me about every sundown if it rained, they couldn't get the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the county commissioner when if I could haul that dirt. It was only about 3-4 feet high, a lot of rock in it. If I could haul it out in the road, why, that'd be a place that was right there handy. And so they said, you go ahead, you just make sure they could get by in an emergency if we had to. And so that's where I did, and we farm that now. We got right along the road we built there. We put a cement ditch in, and it goes clear down to Carl's place. I give him 6 acres down there. It's the bottom of the place, and he's got that now. He lives there. He's retired. He has MS, and so, but he's able to take care of himself. And when I'm home, why, I drive my car down that about a mile, and have breakfast, and then drive back, and then go look for golf balls. And then nighttime, 5 o'clock, I drive back down to his place and have supper. It makes it nice for me. You know, that's the smartest thing my wife ever did, was to teach my kids to take care of me. And you know, I got a diary. She kept a diary from her time she was in high school until she couldn't write anymore. She couldn't see to write, and I didn't know she was keeping the diary. And it's most interesting to read that now. I can sit there on here and read it. And I did. They asked, when did you start building the golf course? I says, I don't know, can't remember. But I look at her, turn her diary and read it now. And so I know right when things happen. And I didn't know she was keeping this diary. And it's most interesting.
You got that at home then?
Well, I got it here.
Oh, you brought it here.
Yeah. You've never seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
I'll take you, when I get through, I'll go in and show it to you.
Sure.
We wondered when they started the golf course. I will walk out there, in there when we go down to Arizona, and winter time, I would go over there and talk to a guy that was working fixing golf clubs, and he said, "Why don't you put a golf course up?" And I says, I don't know how. Oh, he says, I'll tell you how.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I said, if you put it on these 2 cassettes, so I can play them, and then I can figure out how to build a golf course. And that's what we did. I've got a good 9-hole golf course there now, and they have we hold a regional tournament there. It's only 9 holes, but they fixed different places to tee off, and so they're using it as an 18-hole.
Wow.
And it makes it pretty nice. But it's, there's always something to do, and I always go hunt golf balls, and now they tell me that I watch so much hunting golf balls that it's increased my life 10 years. I guess it has.
Sure.
92, and my mother and father didn't grow that long, but I had a cousin that was a lot older than I was. He moved out to Washington during the war, and his wife died, and he got married again. He was only 93, so I've got another year to look for a woman. Oh boy. Now I could tell you more stories, and I've got it all figured out. The good ones die young, so I'm going to be around for a long time. But I just go, I've got 5 kids. I go 3 or 4 months with one, and they take me to the next one, and when they get tired of me. And I'm going next week to Star Valley. Got a daughter there in Star Valley whose husband works for the Fish and Game. He feeds elk in the wintertime, and I'll go up there and help him feed elk. I've done that for the last 7 or 8 years. It's something to do.
Yeah.
It keeps me busy, keeps me doing something.
You like to stay busy, don't you?
Huh?
You like to stay busy, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
I like to keep moving. I'm afraid if I stop, I'd die.
What do you remember about your brothers and sisters growing up?
I remember that we had 50 acres of beets. We raised them. In them days you did it all by hand, except that they had a plow, one plow that dig the beets up and raise them up a little bit, and you hit them together and knock the dirt off and put them in a row, and then you put 6 rows of beets into this one row with the butts all sticking one way. Then you'd run the leveler down a little lever and make about a 4.5 foot smooth place, and you would have the oven facing the other way, and then you'd chop these beets and throw them over there in that smooth place, and then when you throw them over there and then you load them on a wagon and take them down to depot or beet dump.
Mm.
And then I did that. I run a wagon because I could do everything with my left hand that needed to be, and so was loading these. We had about three and a half ton load on it, and then I'd take it down to the dump, and then I'd shovel it off into a pile, and then I worked in the sugar factory, and I started out there on the pile that started out. That after a while, I worked in the lab, and everybody told me I was crazy because I don't know. I talked too much.
Nope.
But anyhow, I worked in the sugar factory, and when I graduated from high school, you know, when you don't go to school until the middle of November, when it froze up so bad you couldn't, when I was a kid growing up, why, you didn't like school. In them days we had a half a day. The kids in the country would go in the morning, and the kids in town would go in the afternoon. They'd use the same teachers, and that's the way they done that. And it's, you know, I've worked in the honey, I've cooked in the cafe, I've done everything. I was on the police force for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I've done everything. Run a water plant for the city. I've done everything.
They wouldn't have been able to make it without you down there in Lovell, huh?
I can't do anything now. I can't walk very far. I ride along my golf cart in the summertime and look for golf balls on the side. And I've got a place there where I sell them. I get people to send me egg cartons, and I clean the balls up, and then I've got a little place up there that I got a sign on it, $5 a dozen, and it works pretty good. Where was I at?
You were talking about selling golf balls and
Oh,
to get your traveling money.
yeah. I got about 7,000 of the fool thing. They getting careless with the balls. If it's over the fence, they don't go over after it. And I can go over the fence and walk along and get a dozen a day or 2 dozen. And it doesn't take me long to clean them up. And I sell quite a few of them. One day the golf course come over and bought. I said, I've got 7 or 8 dozen right here I could sell you. And they said, we take them all you give us. Well, I sold about $30 worth of golf balls that they would resell.
Sure, yeah.
In the golf course.
They can come back and buy the ball they lost last week.
Yeah, well, and that's, lived putting right there. Scott Wells, Dr. Wells, he come and when I started the golf course, he says, this would be a good place for a golf course. I said, nah, right down there's an old dead cow. Yeah, there's no place. He says, you just build a golf course in the city if they need one. And so I said, well, okay, I'll do it. And I'm not going to take care of it because I can't. Well, you can hire somebody. I said no. But I built a golf course and got it so they could play in it and play a tournament, and then I give it to the city. So I don't have any responsibility at all. And it works pretty good.
Sure, yeah. What do you were telling me a little bit about when you went to BYU.
Well, when I went to BYU, they only had the one campus. That was down on 9th Street, I think. I don't know, every time I go by there now, I think about it, because that was in 1936, and I only went, I'd go work in the factory until beet harvest was over by Christmas time, and then nothing else to do, so I'd go down and go to college and did all right. And then I took some dancing lessons. I didn't give a hang about education. I just something to do, and so I took some dancing lessons, and I loved to dance from then on. The gal that was teaching the dancing classes there, I took them and I enjoyed them. And so it's been a long time. I can't walk now. I'm getting so staggery. If I've got a wall on both sides of me, I can stick my elbows out and hit. I can get along pretty good. But it's nice. It's added about 10 years of the family figures to my life.
Sure.
By getting out in the daytime and getting the exercise. And I guess because I've outlived my dad and my mother, but I'm not going to get married like that cousin of mine did.
Dancing, that's how you met Grandma, right?
Hmm?
You met Grandma teaching dancing lessons, is that right?
Yeah, in them days, they'd have contests of basketball tournaments, and I was involved with them, and our team usually won the tournament, and we'd go down to Provo to once a year, and so most of the people, the apostles would give us, some of them would invite us in to just a BS. They'd talk. They didn't BS, but they would talk. One of them told me, he says, you're going to raise a family. He says, if you love them, you'll buy them a car so they get back and forth, and then you buy the gas for them, and they'll have to. They won't be any good. It would be the worst thing you could ever do to a kid would buy him a car and let him drive it. And others told stories. The one that's I can't remember his name now, but when they were building the Idaho Falls Temple, they had the over there, and I was the elders quorum president of our ward, and he called me in. He says, "Gordon, can you get away for a week?" And I said, "Sure, I'm my own boss." He says, "Well, you take this card, and wherever that card is, I want you to be there, because I want you to tell me what they do and information they give you." And the one that's in one of the second command now in Salt Lake. What's his name?
Boyd K. Packer.
Boyd K. Packer. Yes, there when I was overnight at Old Falls, why, I sat with him and we talked big game hunting. The years before. Now I had been hunting over between the two parks, and we'd go up on the ridge up there, and that's where I every year, and so I visited with him, and of course he wasn't an apostle then. He was one of the 70, quorum of 70s in them days or something. But I was telling him I'd been 70. Oh, he says you didn't either. I says I did. I was secretary of the 383rd Quorum of 70s in our state. And we built houses and for something to do, and then we sell the houses. And we built one in Cali and sold it. Built an apartment in Lovell, three apartments in one long place strip, and we done that. I was a secretary, so I know we had them. We don't have them anymore.
No, there's no quorums of 70 in the stakes anymore. Huh?
Yeah, but it's, I've had a good life. When I'm home, I don't lock my door at night because I don't know whether I'm going to wake up in the morning, and I don't want them to have to break a door down to get to me. And but now my kids just take me from one to the other. I'll go up there and feed elk, but they just haven't had to feed many elk this year because of they didn't have enough snow to drive the elk down. But they are now. They're feeding now. But when I would go up in the last 10 years, I'd go up there every year, and I used to drive Royce's horses while he would dump the hay off to string it out for a long ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
You like to go up there and feed the elk, huh?
oh yeah, you know, I can sit there in the window, lay there in the window, bed right there, and I can look out, see the coyotes walking through the herd of 17,000 or 1,700 head of elk. They take better care of their elk than if most of the farmers do their
Their livestock, huh?
livestock, their cattle. That's what surprised me, because they'd count them every year. They'd string these hay out for 3/4 of a mile on this thing, and the elk would string all along, be eaten, and then they'd get about 6 or 8 men on the horse wagon. They'd bring the hay up and spread it out, and then they'd turn back, and some on one side, there'd be 2 on one side counting all the calves,
Mm-hmm.
and another 2 would be counting all the big bulls and all the cows. They separate them, and by the time they get through, they set up. They have 2 doing it, and they correlate their totals, so they know right down to the one.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine, because and then they vaccinate them, and they'll get a little. They'll put a bale of hay, spread it out around in a circle, and they'll pull in the middle, and they'll sit there, and every time they run into a calf, they shoot him with a paint ball. The one guy would shoot him with a paintball, another guy would hit a vaccination.
They shoot them with the paintball to kind of hold them still, or?
Well, to mark those
so knows which one they get, huh?
that they've done.
Gotcha.
And it takes about 2 or 3 hours when they do that, 2 or 3 hours every day. So they take care of their elk. I've seen as high as 10 bald eagles. They bring a kid, when the elk would die, they bring it up to me, up close so I could watch them, just as a courtesy, and then Royce, after he'd get through feeding each day, why then he'd come in and he'd out away from where the elk was. I'd be maybe 50, 60 yards, and he'd see a coyote, and I got 2 coyote hides, and I had tanned, and I got them in my house at home.
Coyotes that come up to feed on the elk, huh?
They'd walk through the elk herd. If there was a cripple, they'd, that wasn't dying, why they take it. They kill it,
Yeah.
and it is beautiful. That's why I like to go up there. I can lay there in bed and watch 1,700 head of elk just out there milling around. They can, they have to haul the hay in there to feed them in the summertime when they can do it, because the guy that owns the going up the canyon, they can't build a road up there. He's got it. He owns it. He won't let anybody go on that road. But he'll ask Royce to, if he'd put some feed down for his dudes to see what.
No, to watch the elk.
And Royce does it every year. The last load, why, they put those bales weigh about 1,500 to 1,600 pounds. They put 3 of them on a sled, and that's the way they feed them. They just string them out, and they don't feed too much, because if they see that they're not eating it at all, why, he cuts down on the feed. And so he's done it so many years, they know just what to do. That's why I like to go up there.
Sure.
I go in my snowmobile in the wintertime. It takes he's got a 2-seater snowmobile, and well, you got 3 or 4 snowmobiles, but I can go in there just, and then I got furnace heat, and it's just warm and comfortable. I got running water. I live like a king.
Do okay up there, huh? Now the snow's finally getting to where they do need to start feeding them then?
Well, now, this year they didn't have enough snow until about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you can't drive an elk, but they'll come if they know where the food is.
Yeah.
And they'll come in. And so now he's feeding elk. Well,
I wonder do you remember much about the Depression?
the Depression.
Yeah, the Great Depression back then.
Well, I never had a depression, because I always find something to do.
Yeah. You didn't know things were bad, huh?
I've slept many a night under a freight train crossing. One time we bummed a ride, we bummed a place, and we went into a bakery, and we each got a bag of old donuts. But boy, it was good to eat, and I ate for a little bit, ate a couple of donuts, and here come the train, just picking up speed. Number 93, and that was the one we wanted to take. And so I grabbed my bag. I carried a quilt over, in the bag on top. And I grabbed that and grabbed the freight train. And then I looked back after about a quarter of a mile, and there was my lunch bag sitting there where I'd been eating.
Left your donuts, huh?
I learned my lesson right then. You don't do that. If you don't grab your lunch, why, Because the other bums that was on there, there were about 75 was on that train.
Really?
Yeah.
Where would you take the trains to?
Just
Wherever they'd go.
wherever they went.
Hmm.
When we wanted to stop, it made me mad once. We got the train there at Idaho Falls. We thought, boy, now we're going to make time. And we went out to Riley to a beet dump, and that was as far as we go. I had to walk back 18 miles.
You rode it 18 miles and then it just stopped at a dump?
Huh?
You got on the train in town and it just went out to the dump 18 miles and you had to walk back?
And went back, got on the road, and went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a lot of experiences. I cooked in a cafe, and I mean, I could cook a steak or anything else, and a kid, a young fellow about my age, he would hire me to go cook for him, and I did. I went up to Bridger once and cooked for 2 weeks up there.
Hmm.
While he'd find it until he found another cook, and then I'd go back down to Lovell. But it's, you know, I never did just sit down and I always wanted to do something. Like now.
You don't like to stay put for long, do you?
Well, I stay as long as they'll take care of me.
Yeah.
When they start, why, they're going to take me over to Paula's over in Star Valley. I think a week I've got these other, take the stitches out.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I've had a lot of doctor bills. I've had 7 or 8 in my nose on the face, and prostate, and just about everything in my lifetime. Well, you live long enough, you do. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, that's what happens, huh? These bodies don't go forever.
No, but they're just now waiting to take 2 or more off. I've got 1 or 2 right here, and then I got another one up here on the head, and they'll take them off.
Sure.
I've got to take the stitches out. You can't see, I had a big one about as big as my thumb on my nose, cancer, and you can't see it. They took the thing out, and then they brought it down, and I thought they did a wonderful job. The only time I right there, there's a ridge across there, and that's what we used to call how you could tell a Mormon.
With a ridge on your nose?
Why, yeah, you take a quart bottle, drink the beer out of it. It comes right there, and that's where it is.
That's how you can tell a Mormon if they have that ridge or if they don't have the ridge.
If they got that dent in their nose, on their nose there, and I've got a ridge. They put it in there.
It worked.
But these 2 that I've got now, I've got one up here on the, above my ear and then one down by my lip. But I've had a lot of them.
Little at a time, huh? Taking them off.
I had one taken off right back here, and the guy said after he'd done it and followed along for quite a bit, he says if you let that go 6 months longer, you wouldn't be here. It was headed for a hole in my head where it could go into my brain.
Right. And finish your brain off, huh? Do you remember when your kids were born? They weren't. I guess they wouldn't have been born in the hospital, huh?
No, Edward W. Croft, E.W. Croft, brought my kids to me.
He'd come to your house?
The older two.
Mm-hmm.
The other three, they've had 5 different hospitals in Lovell. I went one when they took my adenoids out. I went to another to the next one after they got it built, another year or two. Then I went to one, I remember, out in the oil fields. I worked in the oil fields, but some of the crew on a well, they had a crew that was cleaning the well or something, I don't know. But, I was in the hospital laying there for something I'd had, but I can remember these 4 people that they brought in. One guy had got down, he lost something down in the pit, they call it, and he went down and the hydrogen gas hit him and knocked him down. His buddy that was working with him, he had tried to hold his nose while he was bringing the guy up, and they got him. There was 4 of them there that before they could get things shut down and everything, there was 4 of them. And I was laying there in the hospital and I could hear those guys were screaming all night. Oh, you know, it's just terrible.
Yeah. You played basketball when you were younger then too, right?
Oh yeah. When I was a freshman, I went out for the basketball team and I made the team, and but my substitute was Johnny Winterholler, and he went on to make All-American.
Yeah. Wow.
And I didn't. I couldn't see any sense to the coach. He made me mad. He'd run us around the gym after we'd practice to increase our wind. He said, and I said, well, why don't I get dressed and go home? Oh, you can't do that, you gotta run around there. And I said, if I gotta run around that gym that many times and then run home, I live just 2.5 miles. I run all the way home anyhow. Why don't you let me go and I can do, no. So I said, well, you can check it. I physically can't do it. I run till I'm tired out, and then you want me to
Run home too.
run home, and I just can't do it.
You would have to sleep at the gym.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. But when I was younger, I had helped Mother. We did these 50 acres of beets, and so we had the little cousins help us, and 2 or 3 others, and Mother would always want me to come in and help her set the tables and stuff like that, and haul water. We had this ice house, and I'd have to go get the milk and stuff that we had in the ice houses. Of course, I could do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then oh boy. And then I'd do dishes afterwards while the guys were sitting on their butt doing nothing for resting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get through doing that, I didn't get to rest. I'd have to go back out and go to work. So I didn't like it. I always figured that they were picking on me. One of the guys, Reed Cutler, a good friend, we, after we get working, he and I would go out and work beets, pulling top beets for farmers, and we was working on a farm up by Byron, and that was in the old days, and they come down. We was riding on the outside on the running board because he had some of the things filed up in his cab, and as we swung around the corner there by what's that? Well, coming from Byron down, I can't think of the thing. I don't know. They got an eating house there, and a car. But anyhow, in them days, they had a creek that there's no creek there and hasn't been for years and years, but at that time there was, and we were riding on the outside of this truck, and as we went around the corner, why, he got off on the road and we had a wreck. I got a scratch on the back of my head about 3 inches long, and I got a ride home. We rode on the outside of the car, on the running board of the pickup that picked us up. And when I got home, why, I went in the house and they says, "What you got, blood all over you?" I says, "No." "Oh, yes you have, you got blood on you." And Mother washed me up, and there was quite a scratch up there. I didn't remember even riding on the getting home.
Really?
I never knew how I got home, but they told me. So I've always figured I'm living on borrowed time. I hear a year ago, 2 years ago, why, anyhow, I wanted to get somebody to fill up that little place where the bees or yellow jackets that stung me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to fix that up. And so I walked out and asked him as he went by. And he says, "Sure, where is it?" And I says, "Here, I'll ride down with you. Let me ride down with you and I'll show you." I ride down with him and just 100 yards, 150 yards, and he straightened that all up, leveled it all up. Now you wouldn't know it.
Mm.
But he took me back home, and as I got out of the cab, I stumbled a little bit and fell down.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut myself right up here. When I fell down, I fell against the big wheel, and so I says, "Oh well, I'll be all right. Go ahead, thanks." And when he got home, he called Carville and he says, "You better check with your dad, just he stumbled and he got blood on his head." And so Carville come right up, and sure enough, I had blood, but there's no, you can't tell it now.
It stopped bleeding and.
But this other one over here, that original one, why, when the grandkids or great-grandkids or cut my hair, why, they just put a number 3 on their electric razor or electric hair clippers, and it go right up over my head. When I would go down to Phoenix, Mesa, we went down there in the winter time to get out of the cold. And so, yeah, my wife was down there with me, take her down, and we'd do simple work. We'd go 7 o'clock and then 9 o'clock, 2 sessions a day for 5 months, and then go back home. And so.
I remember you'd always send us grapefruits. You'd go and pick up the grapefruit at the temple and mail them to us.
Well, they didn't mind it.
Yeah.
And I could go do that, and I could get a big box and send my kids and grandkids and that for Christmas.
Good grapefruit, I remember.
It was all right. I know once I must have had a stroke. That I knew a guy that had about a 3-acre orange orchard and grapefruit, and I'd go up there when I put my wife to bed after the 2 sessions, and I'd go up and work at the DI, Desert Industries, or I'd go other places just to be doing something. And so, but that's where how come you guys got oranges? I'd make a big batch or box of them, and we'd ship them up to the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember getting those for years.
Yeah. Now, I read a Louis L'Amour book. I've read all of those books there
They're in the box.
in that box.
Yeah.
And, you know, just as said, I'd go nuts if I just was sitting.
Mm-hmm.
I can read.
Yeah.
I used to guide down there in the superstitions in Arizona for something to do. There's there, I don't know what they call it, but up there in the hills, why there's a place that a guy, he had a mule that he got lost. And when they found him, he died, and the mule had gold.
Oh, is that right?
Gold in the panniers, and so they knew they'd come out of there. And they looked for them and looked for them. I used to guide them. One time, I don't know who it was, they asked me if I'd take a bunch out. They had 2 guards and with guns, and they had about 10 prisoners that they had been on parole or something. But anyhow, we went out. I take them out there and looking for the gold. They were just young fellows, and I took them. We just, because I always, you know, I could go out there and never get lost. I could find the way back. I had that ability to not get lost. I don't know. It's going to be bedtime. What is that, 10:40?
10:42, yeah.
Good night.